Hello, viewers of Jonathan George Villaria's World Emporium. I'm Jonathan George Villaria, and I'm excited to share with you how can expand and knowledge of the world through the English language. Our videos cover a range of topics such as literature, history, science, and more to provide you with a well-rounded learning experience. Regardless of whether you are a beginner or an experienced learner, our expertly curated videos are captivating and enlightening content to help you enhance your language proficiency. Today, I'm honored to present on Moses, a remarkable and influential figure in the history of the Jewish people, as well as a great leader in the world's three major religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Moses is not only the religious leader, but also a prophet and proclaimer of crucial laws in history. His life and legacy shares several similarities with King Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Persian Empire. Moses, alongside Cyrus the Great, has left a profound mark on history and become a national hero for the Jewish people. The five books of Torah. He was not only a military leader, but also a historian, responsible for compiling and recording the history found in the five books of Torah, which include Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The Torah contains regulations concerning ethics, religion, and the social life of the Israelites. It serves as a significant historical and religious source for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. His five books form the theological core of the Bible. These works were written over 3,000 years ago and introduce readers to God's purpose and sacred plan. They explain the emergence of sin in the world, God's response, and his relationship with humanity. Additionally, Moses' Pentateuch provides deep insights into the nature and character of God. These books are a precious treasure containing the covenants between the Almighty and humanity, from the creation of the world to the death of Moses. The book of Genesis, the opening book of the Bible, narrates the creation of the universe and earth, revealing God's sacred plan to create humans and have them worship Him. The book of Exodus shows God's self-revelation through the liberation of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, accomplished through miraculous events and the leadership of Moses. The book of Leviticus, an instructional guide, presents what God taught the Israelites about life and worship. It addresses everything from ethics and sexuality to dietary rules, and it provides guidance on worship and religious observance. The book of Numbers records the journey of the Israelites in the wilderness and their unfaithfulness to God, emphasizing the necessity of patience and faithfulness on the journey to freedom and the promised land. The book of Deuteronomy delivers vital reminders that God deserves worship and obedience. It also recounts the covenant between God and the people of Israel, featuring the teachings of Moses. Moses experienced a life filled with traumatic events. He was born into a Hebrew family but narrowly escaped the Hebrew baby massacre ordered by Pharaoh. According to the Bible, Moses was son of Amram and Jochebed, both from the Levite lineage. Gehath, Amram's father, was one of 70 clans of Jacob that had settled in Egypt, making Moses a second-generation Egyptian. He had an older sister, Miriam, who was 7 years his senior, and an older brother named Aaron, 3 years older than him. Moses was born during a time when the Israelites endured oppression and slavery under the rule of the Egyptians. When Pharaoh issued the decree to kill all newborn Hebrew boys, Jochebed, Moses' mother, placed him in a basket and set it afloat on the Nile River. Moses' older sister Miriam watched from a distance, and by fortunate chance, the Egyptian princess Thermuthis rescued Moses. Miriam suggested to the princess that she should become Moses' nurse. Eventually, Jochebed was brought to the palace and became Moses' foster mother. The princess named him Moses, meaning son of the river, in commemoration of his rescue from the Nile. As Moses grew, he became aware of the suffering and oppression endured by the Hebrew people in their slavery. His life took a pivotal turn when, as an adult, he became an avenger by killing an Egyptian taskmaster who was cruelly beating a Hebrew. This act placed Moses in grave danger of execution by Pharaoh, forcing him to flee the royal court and seek refuge on the Sinai Peninsula. There, Moses encountered Jethro and helped protect Jethro's seven shepherd daughters from harassment. Jethro invited Moses to stay and eventually offered his daughter Zipporah hands in marriage to him. Moses lived in the Midian for 40 years and had a son named Gershom. During a fateful day when Moses was tending sheep on Mount Horeb, he witnessed a burning bush that was not consumed by the flames. As he approached, he heard the voice of God. The Lord entrusted Moses with the mission of leading the Israelites to the promised land and bestowed upon him specially by powers. According to the Bible, God called Moses back to Egypt to lead the Israelites out of slavery. God demonstrated his power through Moses by turning a staff into a serpent. When Moses and his brother Aaron returned to Egypt, then convinced the Israelites elders with miraculous signs and messages from God. However, Pharaoh, the Egyptian king, refused to let the Israelites leave and even increased their oppression. Consequently, God sent 10 devastating plagues to afflict Egypt. Moses documented all these events in the book of Exodus. Plague number 1, the Nile River turned into blood, staining the water red and causing massive die-off of fish and amphibians, making the water undrinkable and dreadful. Plague number 2, frogs infested everywhere, causing annoyance and horror. Plague number 3, nasalites infested the people and their livestock, causing annoyance and discomfort. Plague number 4, swarms of flies filled the palace and the homes, leading to chaos and filth. Plague number 5, a livestock disease struck, afflicting the animals of the Egyptians with severe illness. Plague number 6, a painful skin disease, including boils, affected the Egyptian people, including magicians and sorcerers. Plague number 7, hailstorm with giant hailstorm devastated Egypt, causing great fear and destruction. Plague number 8, locusts appear, covering the sky and devouring everything in their path, leaving behind a scorched earth. Plague number 9, darkness enveloped Egypt for an entire night, causing extreme terror and rendering people unable to see. Plague number 10, the final and most dreadful plague, where all the firstborns of the Egyptians, including livestock, died in a single night. After this event, Pharaoh was forced to release the Israelites, but later changed his mind and sent his army to pursue them. This event is commemorated annually to the Jewish households through the Passover celebration, emphasizing that the passed over their homes but left a tragic fate for every Egyptian household. When Moses led the Israelites to the shores of the Red Sea, Pharaoh suddenly changed his mind and sent his army to pursue them. The Israelites found themselves trapped with the vast sea before them and the Egyptian army closing in from behind. In the face of panic and despair, Moses remained steadfast and led the people as directed by God. As night fell, a thick cloud separated the Israelites from the Egyptians. The Egyptian side was shrouded in the darkness, while the Israelite side remained illuminated as if it were daytime. Moses obeyed God's command, raised his staff, and the waters of the Red Sea miraculously parted, creating a path with towering walls of water on both sides. The Israelites safely crossed this passage. When Pharaoh and his army reached the divided waters, Moses followed God's instruction, raised his staff again, and brought it down towards the sea. Instantly, the waters returned to their natural state, submerging and drowning the Egyptian army in the tragic end to their pursuit. Water from the rock at Rephidim. Filled with their success of crossing up the Red Sea, the Israelites faced various challenges during their continued journey, including encountering bitter water of Marah and experiencing food shortages. Moses, using God's power, turned the bitter water into sweet water and caused manna and quail to appear to provide sustenance for the people. However, when they reached Rephidim, they once again found themselves lacking water, and Moses once more utilized God's power to bring forth water from a rock. Moses struck the rock twice with his staff, causing water to gush out. However, due to their previous lack of faith, Moses and Aaron were not allowed to enter the Promised Land. When the Israelites arrived at Mount Sinai, Moses, accompanied by a small group including Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 elders, were chosen to witness the God of Israel. Moses later ascended the mountain along to receive the stone tablets with the Ten Commandments. He promised to return in 40 days. However, when the deadline arrived and Moses had not descended from the mountain, anxiety and panic enveloped the Israelites. They began to doubt and lose faith in Moses. The people approached Aaron, asking him to create idols for them to worship. Aaron collected their earrings and gold jewelry to forge a golden calf, declaring that it was the God that had brought them out of Egypt. The next day, the people held a feast, engaging revelry, and worshipped the idol. Coincidentally, this was when Moses descended the mountain and saw the chaotic scene. His anger flared, and he shattered the two stone tablets engraved with the Ten Commandments. He reduced the golden calf to powder and mixed it with water, which he made the Israelites drink. Seeing that the people continued in their frivolity, Moses stood at the camp's entrance and declared, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And the Levites gathered to Moses, and he commanded them to slay those who had worshipped the idol, and proclaimed that there was only one God above all else, which became the first of the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments of God are as follows. 1. I, the Lord, am am your God. You shall not have other gods beside me. 2. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. 3. Remember to keep holy the Lord's day. 4. Honor your father and your mother. 5. You shall not kill. 6. You shall not commit adultery. 7. You shall not steal. 8. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. 9. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. 10. You shall not covet your neighbor's goods. In the barren wilderness of Paran, Moses sent out 12 individuals, each representing one of the 12 tribes of Israel, to scout the land of Canaan. These scouts ventured into Canaan for 40 days, returning with grapes and other produce as evidence of the land's richness, although they observed Canaan to be a truly fertile land. Only Joshua and Caleb attempted to persuade the people to advance into it. The people did not heed Joshua and Caleb's advice, but instead became fearful and lost faith in their ability to conquer Canaan. They proposed letting a new leader to lead them back to Egypt. This panic led to God's wrath being revealed. Moses interceded and implored God not to destroy the Israelites in his anger. God, in response, listened to Moses' supplication and decided not to annihilate the entire Israelite community. Instead, he punished them by allowing them to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. It could be their descendants who would have the opportunity to possess Canaan. The 40-year period of wandering in the desert was marked by several divisive events, including the rebellion of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, as well as the story of the fiery serpent, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, along with some elders and people from the tribe of Reuben, rose in opposition to Moses and Aaron, accusing them of usurping power and authority. Moses proposed a test to determine who God had chosen to be a high priest. He instructed each person to bring a staff with their name written on it and place them before the Lord. According to Moses' directive, the staff that sprouted and bore fruit would indicate God's choice for the priesthood. Aaron's staff, representing God's choice, was the only one to sprout and produce flowers. After Moses reaffirmed that his authority came from God, the earth opened up and swallowed them, their families, and their possessions, and then closed again. A fire consumed 250 people who had offered incense. The next day, the people accused Moses and Aaron of killing their fellow Israelites. This time, calamity struck, claiming the lives of 14,000 people, only ending when Moses instructed Aaron, the high priest of the congregation, to bring incense into the midst of the people as an atonement offering for them. As the Israelites were journeying through the desert and complaining about the manna, God sent fiery serpents among them, which bit and caused fatal injuries to some. When the people acknowledged their sins and asked for forgiveness, God instructed Moses to make a bronze serpent and place it on a pole. Those who had been bitten by the fiery serpents could look upon this bronze serpent and be healed. The bronze serpent became a symbol of healing and repentance. Today, the symbol of two serpents coiled around a staff. The wings is often used as a symbol of organizations and products related to the medical field. Moses is a significant figure in the histories of the three major religions on earth: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Moses led the Israelites on their journey from Egypt to the border of the Promised Land. However, for certain reasons, he was not allowed to set foot in the Promised Land and had to pass away on the summit of Mount Pisgah. In his final speech, Moses summarized the historical events and laws he had conveyed to the Israelites. He also delivered a warning about the importance of obeying the laws of God and the consequences of forsaking Him. Moses became a symbol of loyalty and reverence of God and led the Israelites throughout the long journey. His death marked the end of an important historical period in the Bible and ushered in a new phase for the Jewish people as they prepared to enter the Promised Land. In Judaism, Moses is considered the father of all prophets and the Jewish leader to guide the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and into the Promised Land as promised by God. In Christianity, Moses is also a crucial figure and is often compared to Jesus in the New Testament, with New Testament authors using Moses to explain the mission of work of Jesus. In Islam, Moses, along with Jesus, is deeply revered as a prophet of Allah, and they both received the 10 Commandments as the most significant divine guidance. Thank you for joining me on this episode. The questions, comments, and feedback are always welcome and appreciated. So please don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, please do hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting and enlightening content by hitting the notification bell. You'll be sure to never miss any very exciting and thought-provoking episodes. Don't forget to share our channel with your friends and family who may also find our content to beneficial. We are committed to providing you with high quality, well-researched, and engaging content that will help you improve your English language skills and expand your knowledge. And I look forward to sharing more insightful and inspiring things with you in the near future.